Okay.
Hey, welcome to this week's Parshat Vayakhel, discussion with Rabbi Kahn. And I'd like to first open up with how I see Vayakhel, and you tell me what I'm missing and fill in where I'm wrong. Because I see Vayakhel as really a tikkun parsha, starting with, of course, the word Vayakhel, because when they did the Chet HaEgel, it says Vayakhel al Aaron, and they gathered on Aaron. So there are scenes where that was the beginning of their downfall. And so in order to do a tikkun, instead of course, bringing all their gold and stuff to do Avodah Zarah, they'll bring it here to do the Mishkan.
Although it's Moshe who gathers them.
Moshe gathers them. Right. Because he wasn't there to gather them. He was missing. They said, Lo yidam maha'ish Moshe, so he wasn't there.
Right. So that doesn't change the tikkun issue. It's just that Moshe, as leader, sees that, so therefore he gathers them together. The other thing, I would just then be tempted to go one step further back. When we first get to Har Sinai, that's one of the things that we're told is the sense of unity. Mm-hmm. Now think about one of the events that happened during the Chet HaEgel, and that is that we're told that Moshe calls Mila Shem Elai, and Shevet Levi comes, and they kill 3,000 of their brethren. Which means, how does a community heal when part of them going and killing the other parts of them? I'm just saying, just in terms of unity, that has to cause something to be broken. But more was the contrast. Ish Echad, Lev Echad, they're all one, they're unity, which means part of what we lost with the Chet HaEgel was the unity that we had by Har Sinai. So the fact that Moshe is gathering them together, I think, is also, it's not, you're right, definitely a tikkun, but it's more than a tikkun. It's the brokenness needs to be fixed. I know you said that's a tikkun, but I'm saying it's more than just in terms of a religious sense. Mm-hmm. It's on.
Are you saying that they were gathered because they were gathered together apparently for something bad? And then are you saying when they did the sin there was a fracturing? There was because then man was pitted against one another when they had done the sin, and which I don't understand. Also, is a question that I have you here for is. It's very odd because the first step in that was Moshe said he called to Levim and they killed apparently their one man his brother, one man his friend.
But that's exactly what I'm referring to. That's the verse.
And then after that, there was even a plague where God killed thousands of people. And then still, that had not been enough in terms of the punishment, like that you say that we are paying for this Chet HaEgel until this day. It's something that still has not been rectified. So if that's the case. What was accomplished already in the killing? Like, was it killing of the immediate people involved? Like, why was the killing of some of them okay, and the Magifa to kill off another chunk of them okay, and the rest of them living? Is it how culpable those people were for the sin? Like, and what did that accomplish? And why wasn't that? I can understand why we're still paying for it today, because I think we still have something inherently within us. That we have to fix, that we have a need to not directly communicate, associate, internalize God's word. But why the killing and why the Magifa?
Right.
You know?
Well, first of all, where do you see Magifa?
Oh, it wasn't a Magifa? So when they did the sin,
we have Moshe like melting it and having them drink it, which sounds very much like the Sota process.
Yeah.
Where, therefore, by association, we can assume that some people died, but it just doesn't say it. And then Moshe, in Pasuk Kavav, Lamed Bet Kavav, then Moshe gathers the people, Moshe B'Shar Machaneh, Yomid L'Shem Elai, and then all of Shevet Levi come. V'yom L'Kol Ma'ar Shem, L'Kei Yisrael, Simu Ish Charo Al Yericho, Ivru V'shuvu B'Mishar L'Shar B'Machaneh, V'Higu Ish Et Achiv, the Ishet Re'eu, the Ishet Korbo.
Right.
And I'm saying that is exactly, okay, this is necessary, but that's where we lost the Ishet Chad, the Lev Chad, that's where that gets destroyed. The Subin Ilivi, Kidvar Moshe, Vayipom Na'am Vayom Mahu, Ishloshet Alefei Ish, which sounds like at the hands of the Levim who went and killed them.
Right.
And afterwards,
Pasuk Lamed He.
Okay.
Vayigov Hashem et ha'am al asher asa et ha'egel asher asa Aaron. So Hashem struck the people.
Yeah, but it's not clear.
That's not a Magifa? Like, I assume that was a Magifa.
Okay, so Rashi, for example, says, Nita b'dei Shemayim.
Nita b'dei, which is what? How does that translate in our...
Yeah, so it's... I'm not convinced. I'll just say that I'm not convinced if this Vayigof is more than we've already seen. But let's pause for a second. 3,000 people die. This is a question that I raised in my last class here today. How many people gave the gold? Mm-hmm. How many people served the egel? How many people brought the korbanot? Even the people who brought the korbanot, because it's very strange what Aaron says. Aaron makes the egel, and again, see this is great. We're talking about Vayakhel. This is the way to do it, just to go back to the egel the whole time. It makes it easier, right? Because Vayakhel is harder. So, more technical. So when Aaron makes the egel, when people approach him, and the people are scared, and they need something. But let's just pay attention to what they say and how he responds. Vayara am ki boshesh Moshe l'redet min ha'ar, v'yikahel ha'am al Moshe, al Aaron. Sorry. Vayomer lo kum aseh lanu Elohim, asher yachu lefanenu ki zeh Moshe ha'ish asher elinu me'Mitzrayim lo yadanu me'hayel. So first of all, they're scared because Moshe's not here. We understand. But Moshe left Aaron and Hur in charge. So what happens to Hur, we don't know. Yes, we have Gemara and Midrashim that saying they killed Hur, which makes everything worse. Right. The other thing is, if Aaron's in charge, we don't have Moshe, so the logical conclusion would be, Aaron, okay, you're in charge, tell us what to do. But now you look what they did. Vayikala al Aharon sounds like violence. Right. It sounds threatening. Right. And they say, instead of asking, they say, Kuma Selanu Elohim. Now over here with Elohim, there is at least the room for a question, whether they're saying make a god with a small g, or they're saying appoint a judge. Right. So the other thing which is interesting, they say Asher Yechol Lefanenu. They're going to go and march in front of us. So their focus is we need something that's going to lead us to know where we're going to, because Moshe, who took us out of Egypt, apparently it doesn't say Mi Beit Avodim here, like it said in Aseret Road, was that God took him to Beit Avodim, but Moshe is the one who guided us till now. We need someone or something to guide us. So it's not clear what they want over here, so we'll pause. Aaron then says, get us the gold of your wife's children, right, boys and girls, and sons and daughters, which seems very much, and Chazal say it, like a delay tactic. Right. Next, they do it right away. Right. So that's, okay, now he needs another delay tactic, so that's when he makes the egel, which you could say that's the most unfortunate thing. But he makes the egel, but I'll say it again, as a delay tactic. And now they say, Vayomru, their response is, Elohecha Yisrael. So that's now completely out of control, because previously Moshe is the one who let us out. Now they're saying, so that means they've gone to a point that I don't believe Aaron anticipated they would get to. Right. But Yar Aaron, he sees this, and again he goes into the delay tactic, Vayivim Mizbeach. Right. Now, the question is, when he makes this Mizbeach, what's the intention? Well, so he's apparently thinking that Mizbeach is going to be to serve God. Right. They get up early. Vayaleu olot. Right. Vigash shlamim. So it could be that some of the people are making these olot l'shem shemayim, and Aaron is l'shem shemayim, and Shlamim is l'shem shemayim, because he knows that Moshe is coming in any second. But it also could be, and again, some of the versions say this, that they're doing this, and they're served by where the people have taken this in this other direction. So right. Now,
so, really, we don't know the breakdown of the pasuk. It could even be the whole the shlamim, and that could be fine. Once I always see the problem is once Vayeshev. Once they're sitting, they're eating, right. They're drinking. Things slowly morph into from great to okay to now we're sitting, right. Now we're eating, now we're drinking, now there's a problem.
Right. So now to try to answer your question. How many of the people gave the gold? Right. Is that Kol Ha'am? So is that really Kol Ha'am? So how many participate giving the gold? Let's just say everybody gave the gold because they know they're making some kind of an egel that gives gold to everybody, even though not everybody serves it.
But can I ask you a question before we go on with that? Because it's a little ambiguous here. But then when Moshe asks Aaron, what did this nation do to you that caused this thing? Then we get more detail, and then Aaron says that he took the gold and he threw it in, and out came the egel. It doesn't sound like Yatzah. It doesn't sound like really it was something that he, with intention, went in and made. And I don't know what the Midrashim with Shem Hashem. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I have a very hard time thinking that he actually created this egel with intent, what it was and what it turned out to be. and that therein lied the problem, you know?
In the Israeli army today, well, generally, they've generally used two different terms they talk about military thinking. One is strategy, and the other is tactics. Strategy is, what are you trying to accomplish?
Right.
Tactics are the things that you do in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Aaron's strategy is delay strategy.
Right.
He's delaying because Moshe needs to come down.
Right.
The tactics that he uses are ones which are unconventional. So therefore, the first tactic is bringing the gold. Okay, that's a tactic. Second tactic is making the egel. You're saying, like, what are you doing? Third tactic is making the mizbeach. Fourth tactic is we're serving God tomorrow. So these are all tactics. So therefore, Moshe says, what did they do to you? And he says, which means this was what came out of this.
Right.
Wherefore, he's saying this was not the strategy.
Right.
This was a tactic which I used. It wasn't the strategy. So yatzah ha'egel, which means you can say, no, it's a whitewash. It's not a whitewash. He's saying is that I was using tactics along the way, and this is what emerged from this, but this was not the plan. The plan was a delay.
Right. Right, like even every strategy can have X amount of outcomes. The strategy in itself doesn't necessarily be inherently wrong. It can have an outcome that, was not the intent in the strategy. So, right, I think that's what I always saw as a problem. And no matter what happened, whether the Midrash, whether the Midrash is literal and they murdered Hor, or even if that did not happen, the fact I think that Hor is missing from the picture at this point, because before Moshe goes up, he says, okay, you have any problem? Go to Aaron, go to Hor, let them deal with it while I'm up, right? So there was some reason why Hor is missing now, and they're only going to Aaron, whether it be murder, which, I'm inclined to say why not, or not. But I think that, and this is like a whole, again, like, you've deeply influenced me in that everything I see, almost everything, if not everything, goes back to Garden of Eden. And I feel like, so I've been looking at this and studying Aaron and Hor, and I'll tell you why after, because it has to do with B'Tzalel in our next part, in our Parshat Vayakhel. But to me, it appears, Aaron, was Ohev Shalom, Rodeh Shalom. He represents Shalom. He represents peace. And from what I understand, Hor seems like he represents this din, this logic, this intellect, this strict.
He's Yehuda. David is going to come, or B'Tzalel is going to come. But still, it's the Yehuda role, which is a little bit more, kill her, right?
Right.
It's
right. Like it's totally.
It's Malchut. It's Malchut.
Yeah. It seems like more like on the books. This is what should be. This shouldn't be, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And this is how I see. Even so, we see Hor appear twice, right? First, when there was the war with Amalek by Refridim, and Moshe goes on the Har, and he has Hor on one side holding up his arms, and Aaron has. And this is the way I see it with this whole the whole philosophy of judgment and rachamim, holding up his hands, and that if you have the fine mix of both the din and the rachamim, that's what upholds the people, and that's what keeps everything going. And when they came to, as the Midrash, if we go according to that, came to, and of course, that absolutely under no circumstance are you going to have something like this. He wasn't dealing with the emotions of the people. He was just saying this is something that's wrong. We're not going to do it. And he was murdered, as opposed to Aaron, who's more understanding and says, okay, I understand the people have this need, whether it be right or wrong. And he says to Moshe, you understand the people ki barahim. They have this, and he understood the people's their nature and tried to work with their nature as opposed to Hor. And because Hor didn't understand that was, the end of him.
Why not say the opposite? Why not say the people were told that Aaron were in charge?
Yeah.
And instead of listening to them and listening to Moshe, and they would say, okay, Aaron, what do we do? They don't listen to Moshe, and they tell Aaron what to do. Which means if this is the attitude of the people, so of course they're not going over to Hor. Because Hor is going to be a strong personality and tell them what to do. So over here, I would be willing to say that on a shot level, they didn't kill Hor. They just killed Hor. We're not going to say they killed him. They wrote him out. They wrote him out of the story.
Right.
Who, completely ignoring him.
Right.
Is because let's just think the other way for a second. And again, I not in any shape or form do I reject what Chazal say, and I understand that that's one understanding of it. Another possibility is just to think the opposite. If they really did kill Hor, I sense the Chumash would have told us this. It's such a
Right, and that
dramatic
would be
thing.
like, why aren't we still paying for that
Right,
sin?
right,
Murder,
right,
which
right.
murder seems like
Right. It's such a
so high up.
it's so dramatic. I
Right.
just feel the Torah would have told us such
Right.
things. I think that maybe I'm saying we can think of the killing of Forge. They just wrote him out off the story.
Right.
He's not in the story anymore.
Right. But either way, it's my sense that there was supposed to be a joint effort, and that there wasn't that joint effort. Like if they came together with this intellect and emotion, and they worked together as a unit, they could have been a force in consulting with each other of how to properly deal with the people. And that's why I see back, if we go back in our Parshat to Vayakhel, once we get into this, and I'd like to discuss the sequence, but we'll go back to that. When God appoints, he says that he appoints Bezalel and Aholiab.
Right.
What I see is because I see the Mishkan, right, it's a rectification, as many people say, in space of the sin that was done, let's say in time, Chet Egel that was done in time. So if you
I think it was
see
confusion of time.
confusion,
Of time.
yeah. So if you look at Bezalel, and you think God says he endowed him with chachma, bina, dat, and of every measure of how to build the kelim. So that seems like an intellect, and in a way he, as we know, is the son of Ori, the son of Hor. He's the grandson of Hor. He has to do this rectification for his grandfather, and he has all the natural inclinations like Hor had. He's starting out young, and God's going to help guide him towards rectification in this place in space. And why does he need? And he says he's giving him Aholiab ben Achisamach as a partner. Why does he even need a partner? Like he has all this, and he has the people. Why does he? It's like so when I see it troubled me until I thought about it, and I said, you know what? This goes in line with everything that we learn with the Machatzit HaShekel. There always has to be a half. There's not only one. For Adam, there's a Chava. For Moshe, there's an Aaron. And when Moshe had to leave and go up, for Aaron, there was a Chor. There needs to be that, as I keep going back to, because this is what I think of the emotion and the intellect working together, the powers of the two. And Holiab, I mean, if we look, and this is something that really speaks to me, is defining the neshama by the essence of who the person is through the names, especially given in the Tanakh. And if you look at Aholiab, is God resides in my tent. And how does he get there? Because he's ben Achisamach. On my brother I shall rely, I can depend. And
which goes back to your Vayakhel point.
Yeah, and also, so that's like very, Aaron with peace, ben Adam Chaver, and God can only, how can God's Shechina rest amongst us? Only we have the peace between Adam and Chavero. So Bezalel can't go on his own. He needs the Aholiab ben Achisamach to be that other component working together.
From which tribe?
From Dan.
Right.
Dan.
And that's important because Dan is the Masif Kol HaMachanot.
Right.
Dan is the one who then takes care of all the stragglers, all the ones that no one else can take care of. That's what Dan does, which means Dan's whole approach there, and it's also in terms of the formation of the camp. You have almost polar opposites in terms of north and south, and they're from different sides, Yehuda and Dan. But so Yehuda's leading the way, but sometimes to lead the way, you need the person who's looking at the guys who are straggling all the way behind. Okay. So you also, just in terms of the geography and the roles, I think it's very important. The leader who's going ahead and doesn't realize the people behind is going to be a very big problem. The other thing about Bezalel is just to think of him as a prototype for Shlomo. Because again, both from Yehuda, one is the son or grandson of Hor, the man who should have been king. Other is Ben David. They're both very young, according to the Gemara. Hor, at this time, Bezalel was 13 years old. The Gemara actually asks about this. It says, how old? When God says to Moshe, what do you think about taking him? And he goes, why are you asking me? So it says, no, he was only 13 years old at the time. And Shlomo, when he was appointed king, was only 12 years old. So you have very young people, but both of them build temples. Right. So one builds the Beit HaMikdash, the other builds the Mishkan. So and also full of wisdom and so on and so forth.
Right. So then what I wanted to say is to go back to the Vayakhel is because it I see it with the support of everything that I've learned of being the rectification in space book at the time that's what would make sense. So we start with the Vayakhel, as we said, and then it goes into the commandment of Shabbat, right? So this even it to me it says that like it's a new Bereshit, it's a new Genesis. Now we're starting with the Genesis of the nation. So, you've done all wrong here. Let's start again from the 6 days of creation. Shabbat, start from the beginning now with you imitating me, creating the Mishkan, and this is where we're going to start like a new Genesis of the nation by you imitating me and making them, since they didn't get what they should have gotten in the creation of the world. Like if you study the world, like Abraham was supposed to be able to come to certain acknowledgments. We didn't get that. So now we're having, I think of it as like, we have the mini Israel and you can see everything and then you can learn. So it's like the Mishkan is like a mini Olam that we're supposed to get, we're supposed to look at, and maybe in their building it, in them doing it, understanding, once you start making something, you understand the inner workings a little better. Maybe them understanding the world through the Mishkan also, and to be able to start afresh with this new kind of understanding through building the Mishkan. And what also streams out when you read this parsha is all the lev, chachmat lev. I mean, why is it chachmat lev, nidiv lev, and whoever was inspired by the generosity? Everything is lev, and it feels like it's trying to get that part of us that has strayed so off path, like back to be whole and to be motivated by that which put us off track.
Which could be part of the Shabbat being over here as well, is that the people were missing Moshe, they were missing God, they didn't have this religious experience now they just now had by Har Sinai. And if you need a religious experience, we have a Shabbat, which is going to be a weekly religious experience, and therefore it's the experience of the Egel that needs now somehow, that void needs to be filled, and God is saying no. Moshe's teaching that there's actually Shabbat that we have, which should be experientially, not just theologically, realizing you guys made a mistake. You thought it was the Egel that did everything. No, God created the world in 6 days, rested on the seventh, which means like we almost need to reset our theological, basis, where do all things come from? But I think it's also experiential, that we need to understand that there could be an experience of Shabbat which could therefore fill that void that the people turned to when they ran off to the Egel.
Right, and so and that's the good thing about Shabbos. It comes once a week. So like every time we start having a little bit too much of that, we get that infusion. Right. But I mean, what I think of, which might sound like a childish question. I mean, we go back to the song Lama Lo Kol Yom Shabbat, but you understand that you can't have a Shabbat without the week. But is that Shabbat is a taste of Gan Eden? It's a taste of where we were, and ideally, my question is, ideally the place that we're supposed to be is a Shabbat all the time, and how does that work? Because that would like nullify a week. Is this a reality? This 6 days a week and Shabbat on the seventh day. Is this a reality, a Gullus reality, or are we working towards something that's always Tamid Shabbat?
We're working to Yom Shakulu Shabbat, and that's how the Messianic age is understood. But I did see something interesting. It's like the last thing that God says to Moshe before he gives to him the Luchot is also Shabbat. So,
yeah.
Right. So it's almost the whole story of the Egel. It has two bookends. Shabbat is on both sides of it, which I think is also interesting. And over here, I hear something, and I'll go one step further. Imagine there's a split screen. God above is talking to Moshe about Shabbat, and down below the people are doing the Egel. So it's not just that this comes to heal it; it's that that's what's being told as they're doing that below. So I think that's also a very powerful image. But then just think about how Shabbat is phrased over here. It says, right, forever. Throughout your generations. Ladat ki ani Hashem. By the Egel, right? Moshe ish lo yadanu ma'ayelo. Ladat ki ani Hashem. You want to understand God, or God is a strong word. Adam yadatcha v'yishtav. It's experience. He knows to really feel, to experience God is through Shabbat. Ushmartem et Shabbat v'chodesh. Right, continue. Sheshet yamin. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. V'asot et Shabbat lidorotam. Brit Olam. So here, if Moshe now God's oh, by the way, they messed up, I'm destroying them. Oh, didn't you say a second ago that Shabbat is going to be the thing that's going to close the covenant forever? Right. Which means there's a forever over here that God said, which I think is really strong. But I love this comment of the Targum Yonatan, which is on the previous page, on the word la'asot. How do you make Shabbat? So he writes, the Natrun is Shamru b'nei Yisrael yad shafka la'asot l'mad Tafnuke Shabta, to make pinukim, sweets, candies,
Stuff
things.
lefanei to spoil, to pamper.
Right. Lasot et Shabbat lefanei. I mean, that's how we make Shabbat. We spoil our kids, our spouses, our family, our guests. Ourselves. That's so I'm saying. I just thought that was great.
Yeah.
What is Lasot et Shabbat? Pinukim, lefanei.
Okay, so are you saying, because without directly saying, when I'm asking this question of working towards that messianic goal of it being Shabbat, because everyone says, Mashiach's going to be, it's not going to be a whole new reality. It's just it's the reality we live in, but on the ultimate level, without probably all that pain and suffering and war and whatever. But will there, when we say that it will be Kulo Shabbat, what does that mean? It doesn't mean Shabbat as we know it in terms of Shabbat, the seventh day of rest, that meaning work 6 days and have the seventh day of rest. Like, what does that mean for us?
I'm not sure. Because whenever we deal with terminology of the future, it's not always clear. We're talking about what happens after Mashiach comes in this world, what happens in terms of Olam Haba, in terms of Gan Eden, in terms of what exactly is that making a reference to, and you're going to end up finding that different commentaries will use different terminologies and have different things in mind. And even when, like you were saying, between the lines, there are those who say, no, everything will be exactly the same. Okay, that's one approach to the Gemara, but at which stage is that everything's the same? So we're dealing with the point is that after Tchiyat HaMeitim, Yemot HaMashiach, afterwards, again, so there's so many points along the line that I'm going to cop out and say, I just simply don't know at which stage it is that's being referred to. My suspicion is that it's Yom Shekulu Shabbat. I don't want to say my suspicion. Yom Shekulu Shabbat, on the one hand, I can understand based on the Gemara in Sanhedrin that says that for 6,000 years the world is going to exist, and then it's going to really be a Shabbat. I mean, that could be understood, and then it's Shabbat. So the whole 7,000th year could be a Shabbat, which means that all the things that we experience in this world now won't be at that particular point. But as I said, there could be other ways of understanding that also.
Right. And so my last question that I want to ask you before we pack it up is, we had the Mishkan, and then we had the Batei HaMikdash, and then we've been so long without it, and we've had to make do reality without this, which I think, of course we look at it as a destruction in the morning, but in a way, I can celebrate the fact that we don't have it in terms of building our own spiritual selves and our own connection with God, which I think is a good thing.
There's a Rosh Chodesh Sunday now, which means the Shiri upstairs.
So I think that it works for us. I mean, in terms of any punishment, it's really just a way to rectify the wrongdoing. So, of course we have shul, Batei Knesset, and learning and everything, but to build our own direct relationship with God, which I celebrate because I try and work on that, and I do really feel like David Hamelach, Lavavi Mishkanot, and I feel like you can carry God around with you, and so that's great. But and I don't know what the reality will be, where we're headed, and what this is the third big coming. This is comes down, whatever that means. And I don't know, because really it's hard for me to understand, because I see the Temple Institute work on, and I think it's wonderful. I think no matter what, whether it's supposed to be something physical or not, the fact that we show our desire and our will, and that we want something and that we're working towards it, I think is fantastic. But it's kind of sad to me to kind of make this like something that's a physical representation. Does that make sense to you? Like that? Then I feel people kind of feel like a little bit like off the hook in terms of there's where we go to serve, and here you have that attitude nowadays. People think in shul and they get it all together and serious, and they're at home and it's like it all goes loose. So I feel like it kind of in a way like it kind of lets people off the hook a little bit.
Right. So the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash was a double-edged sword. Or on the one hand, it allowed people to be close to God and to serve God, as it were. On the other hand, it therefore allowed people to feel, okay, I did my thing, I gave my donation, I brought my korban, so now I'm okay. which is why I think they never really believed there could be a Churban, because, who's going to destroy the Beit HaMikdash? But if you think about it, the purpose of the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash is to bring about kaparas, to bring about forgiveness. So ultimately God destroys it in order to bring about forgiveness. There's a midrash that goes along these lines, that it says that God took his anger out on the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash and not on the people themselves. So therefore it became a sacrifice so that people could continue on, because we do unfortunately have this superficiality that we just feel, okay, I made a donation, I gave this, okay, now I'm okay. I brought a korban, now I'm okay.
The funny thing is, for me, the way I can rectify the problem that I have with it is that I see that we can build up, this Adam Makom ourselves, but kind of to serve God together. So to have the Adam L'Chavero come together with the Adam Makom, you need that central place. And for someone like me, I'm not a people person, so it's like if I didn't have, if it doesn't happen, I'll be very happy being in my house praying. But I feel like it maybe it's necessary in the way of having of uniting the Adam Makom and Adam Chavero, uniting it in one place at certain times, just to have the power of that. But I think the trick is for people not to see it as just one or just the other, like what I was talking about the unification of like I said, either Bezalel and Holiav or Moshe, not whatever it is like kind of that's the rectification of bringing it all, the place where we bring it all together.
And it could be that Shabbat talks about that as well. I mean, there is a Gemara in Yerushalmi that says all the Jews are to keep 2 Shabbatot. Now the Bible says 1 Shabbat. Yerushalmi says 2 Shabbatot, Mashiach will come. So the question is, why 2 Shabbatot?
Right.
We need 1. I mean, what's the difference?
1 or 3, because 3 is a chazaka. Why 2?
Why 2? So the way it's understood is that the first Shabbat, meaning, let's put it this way, one says 1, probably, Yerushalmi says 2. So the way to understand it is that the reality is that we only need to keep 1. But which one? The second one. Which means there's a big difference in the first one versus the second one. So Shabbat is this island of time which becomes very, very holy in very, very many ways. Now the question is going to be how much that Shabbat is going to spill over into your week. Which means, will this now transform the Yemei HaMa'aseh? Will it transform how you do other things? I mean, one of the ideas which I've written about, is that Shabbat, over here the correlation is Shabbat and Mishkan. And we're going to learn the laws of Mishkan, the laws of Shabbat from Mishkan. The word Malacha is used in both.
Right.
But why?
Right.
So essentially Mishkan, we talked about, space, is where the Midrash uses the word that God was mitzamtzem. God practiced limitation, and therefore allowed the Shekhinah to enter into this place, because God is infinite. How does this happen? And he uses the concept of tzimtzum. Creation is also this idea that God is mitzamtzem. God creates by holding back infinity. So therefore, we're in the image of God, but God creates because you can't add anything to infinity, so God creates by holding back infinity.
Right.
Humans, on the other hand, are finite. We don't create, we form. So we go forward, we take things, we take things and make things, and we go forward. On Shabbat, we become as close to God as possible, and we hold back. And we do this act of tzimtzum, and we don't do anything. So therefore, our Shabbat becomes Zecher L'Ma'aseh Breshit. It's a memorial to what God did when He created. So going back to the 1 versus the 2 Shabbatot, so what's the second Shabbat? The second Shabbat is, now, how do I practice holiness? Not in terms of Malacha, Sheshikim Ta'avod, Lasita Malacha. How do I practice tzimtzum in the 6 days of the week? Which means where most of the history of the world has been about people using control over other people in every way that you can possibly control them, if it's economically, politically, sexually, anything you can do, the more people you control, the stronger you are. And now the Torah is telling us, no, practice limitation, self-control. So if the Shabbat, just like I heard you say before about going to the shul and davening in the shul, if the Shabbat doesn't transform the way that you're going to treat somebody on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, so there's something wrong with your Shabbat. But if on the other hand, it changes your relationships, it changes the way that the economy works, it changes the way that the disenfranchised are treated, it changes the way that you have all of your relationships, and this holiness which is affecting everything, because again, this gesture of tzimtzum, that second Shabbat is going to be like this, not an island, but this crown of the entire world which is elevated. And that's what brings about redemption.
Right. That's how I see it. So Shabbat is really getting to Ladat et Hashem. So when you really get to that connection on Shabbat of internalizing this knowledge of Hashem, then you bring it with you into the week, knowing that you don't need to manipulate all those factors, those power trips. That really, you come to a doc, or sometimes you bring back. That's what I love. I incorporated, although my fathers must have happened to incorporate new minhagim. But I heard this thing that, like a Hasidic thing that I loved, and I do it now. After Shabbat, I take 2 candles and I light them. And when we bring in the Shabbat, we bring the Shabbat with our hands, bring forward 3 times. So
men can't do that. They don't have the dexterity.
I really don't have dexterity either, but a lot of practice over there.
Right.
So now when I light these 2, this part I made up, I light 2 candles to bring the sanctity and that knowledge and that closeness to God out into the week. And what I do is I go like this because I'm exiting the Shabbat and I want to bring the Kedusha and the holiness and that closeness to God into my week to connect me till the next Shabbat. So I light 2 candles and I ask God to stay with me in that way throughout the week. And it's funny because that's what I mean, for me it's a security thing because I need that security of knowing God's with me and it connects with me and I think it's a beautiful thing. And I do think that if everybody really, really felt that, if you all kept that on a conscious level all the time, I think like what you're saying, all those problems would melt away. We would have this ideal existence, holy and ideal. And so this Vayakhel became very meaningful to me after studying it all in this way, which before it looked so technical, but when you see it as reworking of everything and why, I do think it's a lot to learn from there.
I have friends who are Bali Tshuva, so they don't have really their own family customs. But one thing that they do, and I thought was beautiful, is as soon as they make Havdalah, Shabbat is over, they put the oil in the candles for ready for the next Shabbat. They already prepare for the next. I go, most of us, it's like the last thing you do running around on Friday afternoon, and they already get the candles all set up already for the next day. So one Shabbat ended, and let's just get ready for the next one to already arrive, which I thought was beautiful.
Yeah, I learned that in school, and I mean that's immediate. An extension of that is like to do something every day towards Shabbat, which I try to do, to show that excitement. But yeah, Bali Tshuva, I learned so much from them, and Galen too, by the way. So thank you so much for that, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.